Alright, so in this video I'm going to show you how to save and pull data from Firebase using Swift. And to start out, we're just going to make a project inside of Firebase. Just get all this set up. This usually takes a while, so I'm just going to skip through that. And so now we're going to click the iOS tab. And then we're going to need this bundle identifier, so we're going to set up a single view application. And I'm just going to call it tutorial 3. And we're going to be using Swift. And so we'll create this new project. And then once this project is created, all we're going to do is grab the bundle identifier. And once we have this bundle identifier, we're going to go back to Firebase, paste this in here so we can get the Google service info plist. And then we're going to download this. I'm going to put it inside like the folder that my applications or the program's being run in. And then you're going to have to delete this one if it ever pops up. Just make sure there's nothing really after info. And then we're going to close out Xcode. And then we're going to open up the terminal. And then we're going to cd or go to the directory where our new project is. And we're going to make a pod init file. So for this you'll need CocoaPods installed. Let me know if you want a video on how to install CocoaPods. But all you got to do is type pod init. Once you do that, you can open up the pod file. I use Sublime Text because it's just fast and simple. I always remove this platform thing. And then we're going to do pod Firebase, pod Database, and then pod auth. Even though we're not going to be using the auth, I just always like having it there just in case. And so after you get all this typed in, we're going to go back to the terminal and then do a pod install. And so once this installs everything, it's going to create a new workspace file, which you will be working in from now on. And so you open up this workspace file, and then you drop down the first tab with your project name, not the pods. And then we're going to drag in the Google service info. And then do the copy if items needed. If it's not checked, just check it. And then to start, you're going to go inside of the app delegate, however you want to say it. Once we're in here, you're going to want to import Firebase. And it's still indexing right now, so like it's not like kind of popping up at the moment, but it will once it's done indexing. So then you go into the did finish launching with options, do Firebase app.configure, and then once it's done indexing, it will pop up green. And then we'll go into the like main view controller. We gotta import Firebase to make use of it. And then I like to just make my reference link all the way at the top, so I'm not constantly making new references throughout my project. And then we need the database URL. So to get this, you're gonna just click through all this stuff because we already did this. And then skip that. And then go to database. You're gonna create a new database. And do it in test mode for right now because it will just make things simpler, make things like, you know, run a lot faster so you don't have to like authenticate like polls and requests and stuff. And so go into rules and you're going to change these falses to true so we can just read and write whatever we want without like authentication. Hit publish, and then now we can go back to, and yeah, we have to get this link, paste the link into the URL, and now we can make use of this. And so to start, we're just gonna put some data into our database. And so we're just gonna set up some variables like the name, the age, and the city. So I'm just making Jeff, he's this age, and he lives in Denver. And so once we have just like this data, we can use our reference link now, and we can do ref.child users, and then we're going to use the name Jeff, and then we're going to do update child values. And so updating child values, you're going to have to use brackets so you can input like multiple things. So this like allows you to like just change things inside of the child node. If you don't use the update child values, it will just overwrite everything inside of the child node, which is not really helpful. So if you use these brackets, you can just like add like multiple like items in the same reference. And so once we do that and we build this, we can now go over to our Firebase database, and we will see that we now have a users and Jeff, and then his data. And then if you always use the child users, it will always like just create like that new like node. But now I'm just going to make a function to like save the data, so then we can just call the function like whenever, instead of having to have it inside of the view data load. And now I'm going to show you how to pull the data from Firebase correctly. And so I'm going to make a function that's going to pull the data, and I'm going to also give it some arguments, and I'm just going to give it a name, so we can just pass in the name to look for inside of the database. And so we can also use the reference link again, since it's used in a different function. And we're going to do ref.child, and then go inside of the users node, and then since we're giving the name, we can go inside of the name node, and then we're going to do observe single event, and then do .value, and then enter snapshot right here. You can enter anything in there, it doesn't really matter. But right here, so we're going to do the for child in snapshot.children. It's the same snapshot that we just put up there. And we're going to do let snap equal child as data snapshot to make a snapshot of the data that's in the Firebase. And now we're going to grab the key. And so once we grab the key, we can also grab his values, because if you think about it like this, we're going inside of users and then inside of the name, which is Jeff. And then since we're in the child Jeff, we're getting all of the data that's under it. And so we're just going to print out the key and the values. And so what this is going to do is it's going to just tell us the age and the city that he is in. And so if we go up to the view data load, use this function and put the name Jeff in it, then we will get Jeff's data from the Firebase database. And there it is. Now, just for like, show you how to like, kind of change these functions, I'm gonna make it so the save data, you can just use it and then enter in the data, like whatever type of data you want. And so I'm just gonna make the name a string, age an integer, the city also a string, so you don't have to just have like hard-coded variables inside of here. And so then inside of our reference link, we're gonna change it to user, age, and city from the arguments, and then we can get rid of these up here. And now when we go to call the function up at the top, all we got to do is just pass in a name, an age, and a city. So we're just going to enter in Ron, we're going to give him his age, we're going to say he lives in Kansas City. And so then if we run this now, it's just going to put Ron's data inside of our database, make a whole new child tree for him. And now I'm going to show you how to just show all the users that are inside of the database. Well, first I'm just going to show you how, just to show you that we can also get his data and it doesn't get confused. Because it's the same thing, we're just going into Ron's child tree and getting his data. And now I'll show you how to just print out all of the users that are inside of the user's child node. and this will just print their names. It won't like, you know, go in deep and get all their values or like anything. And so we don't really need to pass in arguments or anything. We're just going to do the reference child users, because that's just a node that we need to be in. Then observe single event of dot value, and then snapshot. Then for child in snapshot dot children, we're just going to loop through all of the children inside of users, and then do the for snap equals child as data snapshot. And this is the most like easiest way to loop through all of the children in a Firebase database, and personally I think it's the cleanest way. And then we're going to grab the keys, and we don't need to grab any values because the key is just the name, and then it has like more keys and values inside of it. And so we're just going to print the keys, and this will just tell you all the names that are inside of the user's child tree. And so if we go up here, change this to get all users, and run this, it will compile, and it will print Jeff and Ron. And that's really how you like upload data and retrieve data from Firebase. It's pretty simple. Try to keep these videos short. Comment if you need anything else.